This is dangerous, very dangerous.
Everything's on the ground, Gary. Large tornado on the ground.
Obviously, nobody anticipated the world record width of tornado ever.
Nobody had ever been killed, but as far as somebody being hit by a tornado, chasing that tornado, that was the first.
It was sad that they died doing something that I would have loved to do.
Right in front of us. Tornado right in front of us.
"10 years ago, where this memorial stands today, a Chevy Cobalt was reduced to scraps. The car belonged to veteran storm chasers Tim Samaras, his son Paul, and Carl Young.
There hadn't been a whole lot in 2013, besides Oklahoma. Oklahoma was kind of the hot spot that year. There weren't a bunch of other outbreaks, so everyone's itching, that's a storm chaser, to see a big storm. So everybody is here.
Over the last several days, the state was plagued by tornado damage. Oklahoma was broken. No one was anticipating the grand finale Mother Nature had in store for them on the last day of May. The El Reno tornado, still the widest tornado ever recorded.
I said, it looks like to me it's over 2 miles wide. And I was wrong because it was 2.6.
And it developed in western Oklahoma and it starts tracking down I-40. And it develops this like disgusting hook on it. And it was like, this is gonna produce a violent tornado.
This tornado was nothing like storm chaser David Payne had ever seen.
Now you'll have big tornadoes, sure, but it's all contained inside. We already had a huge tornado, and then on the outside of that, rotating around that, we had 5, 6, 7 other tornadoes that were forming so fast, and then lifting and then reforming.
And its movement was near unpredictable.
It was a perfect storm. It was a perfect environment to get what you got that day. In a bad way, it was a perfect storm.
But there may not have been a better group to face that colossal storm than the Twiz-Tex team.
Those guys were veterans.
Anybody who's my age that's pursuing meteorology had some influence by some of these storm chasers who were household names.
Tim and Carl chased storms together for 10 years.
Right in front of us.
There was a television show on Discovery called Storm Chasers that highlighted different groups of storm chasers, and the Twiz-Tex team was one of them.
This tornado's coming right at us.
Twiz-Tex was highly respected in the meteorology community. Tim built a reputation for being an innovator, trying to better understand the science behind these storms to save lives.
But there's other people out there that do it just for the video or just to be loud or obnoxious or whatever. That wasn't him. He did it for the research.
Tim was also known for putting safety first.
Tim is the safest of any storm chaser there is. He's iconic in this business.
He was never a guy that got like super close.
There was probably nobody better equipped to handle a situation like that than those guys.
The tornado was growing.
It's a big tornado, Gary. It's big, it's wide.
And crawling east-southeast. But the behemoth made an unexpected turn.
So at the beginning, they were in a pretty good spot. They were right here and it was doing like this, and they were just gonna keep tracking it like this. Well, it gets right here and goes like this. And literally, it did that turn a mile and a half. So does this now, suddenly instead of you tracking it or chasing it east-southeast, now it's tracking and chasing you.
Well, we have some breaking news to share with you here at the Weather Channel. We can now report that 3 of the 9 people who died in Friday's tornadoes in El Reno, Oklahoma, were storm chasers.
That evening, reports flooded in with the news that Tim, Paul, and Carl died in the storm.
Obviously, everybody was sad.
I mean, I had tears in my eyes whenever I learned who it was because I looked up to these guys.
I mean, a lot of people knew Tim, and if you hadn't met him or didn't know him, you knew of him.
And I've known Tim for over 2 decades.
When the storm caught up to the team, they were traveling on dirt roads.
If it's moving 50, you need to be 80 or 90.
Many believe the vehicle got stuck or simply couldn't outrun the storm, although they couldn't escape Mother Nature's wrath. The Twiz-Tex team inspired a generation.
And so, obviously I didn't know them, but they definitely shaped me as wanting to become a meteorologist. Those are people that, like, you know, I wish nowadays I could almost tell them thank you for inspiring me a little bit to do this. You know, I wish that there could ever be a day where I could tell Tim Samaras, you know, I really looked up to you as a kid. You know, thanks for what you do, and now I can't. So that part is sad. That part is what got me when I was young.
Their deaths sent a tremor through the meteorology community, but it led to a tribute that would span the length of 3 states.
If you look nationwide, there's red dots all over the country. And each one of those is a storm chaser who has their location enabled. So this is called the spotter network. And then following the deaths of the chasers, the spotter network got together and spelled out their names with their GPS position. So each one of these dots is a storm chaser. And they all organize this to get in position. And this is, to give you scale here, this is Nebraska, this is South Dakota, and this is North Dakota. So this is hundreds of miles of organization by a community. So whenever I say this meteorology community is small, it is, but it's tight-knit, and that's how you know.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy for people. I mean, that just tells you how many, I don't know, hundreds of people to make that. It's a lot of people.
Every year on May 31st, people come to this memorial, lay flowers out, and remember the lives of these 3 men. This monolith will continue to serve as a reminder of the lives of Tim, Paul, and Carl. It symbolizes a mark they left on an entire field of study, one that will stay standing through generations.
So to say that those guys probably left a bit of a legacy on a generation of storm chasers would probably be a bit of an understatement. It's difficult to look at a 12-year-old and see a group of guys that just died doing this and say, I want to do that. You know, I want to keep pursuing this to try to understand, try to better understand what's going on, right, and try to better warn people.